what we're going to be going over today. We're going to take a look at how to convert the classic to kinetic screens, and then mostly we're going to focus on application studio itself. What are all inside the application studio, how you can, what are all the data rules, data events, data views, how do you go ahead and work with them. That is what we would primarily focus on today. So as we know, classic version of the screens are no longer going to be available. I mean, if you're on the 2026 version, at least you do not have access to the client version anymore. So you would have to be on the browser. And so the first step would be to convert your classic to kinetic screens, and that you could do using your conversion workbench. Now it depends. Like when you use your conversion workbench, you you could see a couple of errors, couple of warnings, or you could see like a complete status. That would just mean that like some of them don't automatically convert, especially like the ones where you have had a lot of classic complex customization code on your screens. They would not automatically be converted. If it's just something where you might have had some UD fields, some couple of screen, some text fields that you have added, simple things like that usually get converted, but not the more complex backend code if you had that on your classic screen. So, and then like you could also have something like maybe your BPMs did not convert because of some errors on the code. So it really depends on what was being done on your classic screens. But for the most part, they should be converted fine. But then the others would show you in the screen here, we can see that it has some warnings or some errors or something like that. And then we would have to manually go ahead and look into what is causing that failure. But yeah, for the most part, if you were just on like a simple screen, that would get converted for you. Now, once you convert, you would have to start using the App Studio to make any changes on your screen. So this is like the design environment where users can start doing their own kind of a code. This is mostly like a low or no code kind of an environment. So back in Classic, if you would have done any customization or you were trying to do something, it would mostly deal with having some sort of knowledge with your .NET code or VB code to get that done. But for the most part, on your App Studio, you have a lot of like widgets, and there are like a lot of things that Epicor has given us where you don't really have to worry much about the code. That is in case you're not really doing something complex, then that should work out fine. So this is the design environment that was set up for the users. It's like a low or no code kind of an environment. It is resilient to upgrades. So like when your version is being upgraded, you don't really have to think about how my customization layer is gonna be fixed, or do I have to fix it again. Like in the previous versions of Kinetic, there were issues where like some of them were failing, but I would say as we are progressing with each version of it, I would say there are like less and lesser errors that we are seeing. So, and then it also allows you to save some time and money, because you don't have to really go to developers to get this sort of thing done with the new environment. How do you access your App Studio? If you're on a certain screen, like let's say you're on like the quote screen or the order screen, then on the right hand side on the top you have this overflow menu where you can just click on that, and you can access Application Studio right here. Or the other way would be just like in your menus, type in Application Studio, and you get the screen here where you have all your layers available here, whether it's the base layer or it's a layer that you would have updated. Everything is available right here. So you can filter out what you're looking for, and then you can just go ahead and access it and then start making your changes. So these are the two ways that you can actually access Application Studio, either from your form here, or from your menu item going into Application Studio. Now, once you're inside Application Studio and you're trying to make any changes, I would say the very first thing that you would have to do is start by creating a new layer. I specifically wanted to mention this because sometimes what when I was not like when I was in the like initial stages, what I would used to do was just go into my application studio, start making some changes, and then once I'm ready to preview them, then I realize that I haven't actually created a new layer. So when you don't create a new layer, what happens is your changes whatever you have done till now, they're not going to be available. So always make sure that you select a new layer or select whatever existing layer that you have and you're trying to make changes in it. Always have a layer though. Don't allow it to just stay in like this new layer. Either create a new layer or select a new layer, and then that is when you actually start making some changes in it. This is how your application studio would look like once you go inside your application map here. That is like the very first thing that we have here, and on your left hand side in the application map, it is like it says, it's a map where everything is sort of like laid out to you. Your first page would have been your sales order grid page, and then once you go inside you have your orders page, and then like how it is kind of divided out, and what are all the different slide out panels that you have. All of those you can just access it from here. Like once you click on one of them, you kind of have like an edit a little pencil icon that comes up, which tells you that you can go ahead and start editing them. So it could be anything. It could be either your slide out panels, or it could be just the grids or the specific page that you're looking for. Just go ahead. If it is not in this like whitish color, then it is something that you cannot go into and edit. But if it is open, then you can just like go ahead and start editing inside that screen there. And the next icon here would be your layout. This is pretty much similar to your map, except that like you have all of them laid out in this specific way here. So you can just go ahead and let's say you want to go ahead and edit your order entry screen. You would have to just go ahead and click that, and then it opens up like a new tab here where you can start making your changes. Pretty much similar to your map, except that it's just laid out in this way for you to just go ahead and click on it and start editing it. Our next tab here would be your data roles. If you had worked with data roles in your classic screen, this is pretty much going to be similar to that, except that the way that you write it. But the logic behind it is similar to what we would have done on our classic screen, where you can either manage your existing data rules, you can create new data rules. I mean, except if it's like a logged version that Epicor has given us, you cannot edit it. But otherwise, you can, whatever you have created, you can go ahead and manage them by editing them, or you can create your own new data rule. So like I said, data rules, they are just simple yet powerful tools to create data-driven behaviors. We've used it for like, let's say you want to change a color. You have a field, and then you want it to either like change a color on a field, or you want to disable a field based on another field, or based on a value. You might want to disable a field. You might actually want to set that field to a default value. There are like different things that you could do using your data rules. The way that you would start doing your data rule would be like you have this little plus icon over here on your data rules. Then you can start by clicking on it. It opens up a new tab specifying this data rule here, your new rule here. Give it some name and some description. Then you see here how we have our action data view, which tells you like which data view you're actually supposed to see your action on. Like let's say you're trying to disable a field, then that specific data view you would have to select here. And then conditions, you could have multiple conditions, like multiple or conditions and conditions, and all that. You can also, let's say you have a data rule and you would like to disable it. You can just like disable it here, like from this overflow icon, you can select that and you can disable it. And also, like one good thing I've seen is right here on your left hand side, you can right click and actually copy them. Like sometimes I would have data rules that are kind of similar, but I'm just maybe like changing the field names or something in a specific data view. So I can just like go ahead, right click and copy that. It gives you a copy, and then you can just give it a new name and then change the field values inside here. We can give in multiple and or operations in here in our conditions. These conditions, they can cause an action to run when one or more of these conditions on this data rule are met. See, I had put in the screenshot here because I just wanted to show that you can have a group condition too. You can have like a regular condition or a group condition, and then you just have to specify those conditions here, and you can have your data rule working. I put in like a little screenshot here to show like how you can have conditions as well as you can have no conditions. Like without any conditions, you can just do some kind of an action on a data view, even without putting in any conditions. One good example would be, I think I had someone ask me to, as soon as you get into a screen, they wanted a page to be like disabled or something like that. So in that case, I don't even need a row rule. So in my no condition, I would have just given my action. Once you start specifying your condition, the first thing would be make sure that you select the condition on the data view on that condition. Now, this could be different from your action. Like, let's say I'm looking at something from order head, and then my action data view would be maybe order detail. So these could be two different data views that you have your condition and your action specified on. But once you start putting in a condition, make sure you select your data view and then the field that is actually causing this data rule to work. You have different operators here, equal, not equal, greater than, and all that. And then you also have the option to either you could do it like a value where, let's say, I I say my order head PO num is equal to a certain field, or you could also make that using a different field value. Like if this PO num is equal to some other field value, right here, you can select the field, the data view. Now that could be a different data view again, and the field from that specific data view. It doesn't have to always be like a value, but it could also be like from a different field that you're specifying this value in. And then you can have multiple conditions, and then you can change this to either an and or an or condition here based on what you're trying to do. And then once all those conditions are met, then you have your actions. Data rules, they can different things that they can do. Like a couple of them are they can cause, you can change the status of a field, like in the screenshot I put in. Error just means like it will come up like in a red color. Highlight is, I think, like blue. Now these are again similar to what we had done in our classic screens. It's just that the way that we would do it would be slightly different. This is an example I put in here wherein like I think if my customer name was Dalton, then I put in like an action wherein the PO num has to be highlighted. Um, so for this specific, for my ship by field has to be highlighted. So for this specific customer here, when that condition is met, you can see how the field changes here based on your actions. Going ahead onto data events, I would say like probably it's like one of the most important ones that we deal with while doing anything with Application Studio is your data events. You would have to know how the flow of events going, like anything and everything that goes on in your form, on a Kinetic form, everything has a behind the code data event to it. So, so you would have to know the exact flow of how, let's say, like you click on a button, what happens? There would have been an data event here on your App Studio that would actually cause that button click to happen, and what should happen after your button click happens. So things like that, data events, we would have to like know everything about this to work on App Studio specifically. So you have different kind of data events happening. Some of them could have triggers. Some of them need not even have triggers. It could be like a no trigger data event that happens. So it's kind of like divided into these there like the four kind of things, which is like your components, then you have your data, you have a general, and then you have user defined actions. Your data events are sort of like divided into any four of these. And once we are looking at component, it would have something like control is just like your, let's say you have a text box. What should happen when you tab out of that text box? And then you have your grids. What would happen if you have when you're clicking on a grid on a specific line on the grid? And then you also have things like your form on load. I use this pretty much a lot, like, when something happens on form on load, what is happening inside it. I go ahead and we can take a look on form on load to see what is happening on that. So these are just some examples that I put in for components. It could be like you have your plus button on your form, wherein like when you click on it, what should happen? We can see like on our tool new on click, we can see that it's calling an event called get new. Then we can drill down and see what is happening on get new. And then form on load, what is happening? Like these are all the different events that are being called when your form is being loaded. Then you can go inside each of them, drill down and see what is further happening. If you're trying to put in a specific, like a dialog box or something like that, to see what is happening, you can just like go into that event and put in your own code. The next type would be your data, and then this would include your data tables, your data views, epi binding, anything to do with either of these types here would fall under your data. And that would also mean like, let's say a data table. So I'm on my order entry screen, and when I change my customer ID, then I need something else to happen. Then I can put my trigger on, you can select the data table, and then you can select the hook, which either could be your column changed or column changing. And then you can go ahead and select what is that field name. So this is just like this is a trigger wherein now I know, like when my data table is order head, and then my hook is column changing, and my column is, let's say, customer ID. Then what else should happen? You can put in your own widgets to see what could happen on that. And then you have data views, which is like you have different hooks for each of them. Like if you select data table, you would have a different hook attached to it. If you select a data view, you're going to have a different hook attached to it. Now, when I select a data view, maybe I want something to happen on like the row changed, or I want something to happen when my view is changing. Based on that, you select that. And then in this case, I had selected order details. So that means I want something to happen when my um, data views, which is my order details row has changed. I need some further processing to happen. So this is going to be my trigger wherein I can put in additional widgets over there. And then general typically is it only displays if an event is not of a component or data type. And this group, it contains like your custom events. Let's say you have your on-click tool save. Then you want some additional steps to be executed apart from your base Epicor code that was happening on your tool save. You might want something else happening either before or after it. Those kind of events fall under your under your general category here. This is just one of the example screenshot that I had put in. Like I wanted some additional steps to happen after I click on my save button on my order entry form. I can put in like a dialog show, or I can put in any further processing to happen here. And the last type of data event would be your user-defined actions. This typically are the non-trigger based type, so you don't have a trigger. What that would really mean is if you don't have a trigger, you're probably calling this from a separate event. Like maybe I have a button click on my which would be defined in my component, and then on a button click, I want some further processing to happen. Those kind of events, they wouldn't necessarily have a trigger, but all I'm doing is I'm going to call my copy order on my button click. It could be any kind of steps that you put in inside this. It doesn't matter, but it's just that it doesn't have a trigger. So those kind of things would fall under your user-defined actions. Every form has its own, it would have its own loads of user-defined actions that Epicor has given us based on the form that you're on. Almost all the forms would have your after get new, after get by ID, and after update, before update. Things like these would pretty much be common in all the forms, but then based on your form, you have different other actions happening here too. The next tab on your left-hand side would be your data views. So data views are typically there. They are a representation of your data in your underlying data set in your underlying data table. So it's not like the way that you would represent it on your screen. Now, because I'm using my order screen, it would either be my order head or order detail. Those are my data tables. But the way that I would represent it here on my screen would be using my data views. This is an example I put in to show you, like when you execute your get by ID on my order entry screen, what happens is on the execute get by ID, a REST ERP call is done, wherein like it's calling the get by ID, and then there are like furthermore steps. But here on my REST call, on my response parameters, you can see how like the data set is set to sales order. That means my get by ID, my return data set, it is set into my sales order data set. And this I would go ahead and put in inside my data view. So I'm going to go ahead. In this case, order head is already going to be in our screen because we are on the order entry form. So we can see how we have the data set ID, which is the sales order that got returned in our REST ERP call. And then you're picking the data table that you need, which is your order head. Down below, you would have all your columns related to that specific data table. Now, it need not always be just from your business object. It could also be from a BAQ. You could change this to use a BAQ, and then you can return data from a BAQ. Like if you want to go ahead and put in your own grid and put in your own data, you can create a BAQ, and then you can just call that into a data view here, and then the contents of your BAQ, you will be able to access it right here. So each data view is wired to a single data table, and then you load data into your custom data view by using an event that calls us, like it could be from a REST ERP call, it could be from your BAQs, or it could be like your functions. You could also like have a function returning back a data set, and then that data set you can select the table that you want and create your own data view. Apart from the data view that you create, you also have the system data views. Every form would have these system data views. The most common one would be your trans view, your key fields, action result, search result. These are available on all the pretty much all the forms. So TransView is used when it's available in your system-based applications and the custom layers, and it's usually used for like on-the-fly columns. Back when we were using classic screen, we would have put in like a field on our screen, and just like you could be able to use that field value. But here you have no such thing to use a field value. Like I added a new text box, and there's no way like I can just access that field value on that text box. So for that, what you would do is you would bind it to a transview data view. It could be anything. It would be just like transview dot some text test field. You can name it anything you want. And then like for all these on the fly columns that you use, you would have to use a transview data view. Now these are specific to your to that page that you're on. Like let's say I am on order head, and I have a different form for my part maintenance screen. Your data view is going to be specific for that current form that you're on. And then once you close it, you lose the value on that transview form. It's not like it's being saved into your database. It's just available for use on that current session. That's all. And then you have your key fields. Key fields is also one of the system data view that you pretty much have on all your forms. Action result is something where, let's say you have you're using a function, and then you're returning back. You're not really returning back a data set, but you're just returning back a couple of fields from that function. In that case, what I would do is I would just use action result dot my output parameter name, and that way I can use my field value that I'm returning back from my function. Need not be just a function. It could be anything like your app open widget. It could be your REST ERP. It could be your credit card entry widget. Either of those you would be able to, whatever it is returning back is what comes under your action result. And then the next system data view is your search result, which you typically use during your search show widget. That is where the data view is used for storing all the results returned by your search. So if you're using a search, pretty much you would use your search result data view. We're not limited to these system data views. We have tons of other things, but these are the most common ones that I use. So I just wanted to put that in here, like the trans view, key fields, action result I always use when I'm using my functions, and then the search result, of course. The way that you would create your new data view is just click on data views, and then you can see that you have this plus icon here. You would go ahead and click that, and it would give your, here you can give your data set ID and the data table that specifically you're looking for. In the previous versions of Kinetic, we would have to, the only option would be to manually create it. This was way back when I started it, we would have to create it manually. But then now we have this data view guided setup, which is really nice. You get to select, are you using a business object or are you using a BAQ? Based on those options, you can select the specific business object that you're using. And then you can also select, like, let's say I'm trying to get my part table inside here, inside my order entry form. I'm trying to get something from my part table. Then in my data view guided setup, I would have selected the business object for part, and then I would have selected a get by ID, and then it would create two different things for me. One would be the new data view that just got created, and it would also create a no trigger kind of a data event for you that that you have to call, like, when would this really be called? When would my part data view be called? Is when I select a line on my order line. When I select something, when I select a part, that is my trigger to call my new data view for part. So things like that, you can get those done, and it's really helpful using this data view guided setup. And then the next thing is your toolbox. This is also pretty much similar to what we would have seen on the classic screen, where you have like, are you adding a text box? Are you adding like a combo box, a date picker, things like that? All of those you have in your toolbox. Apart from what we had on our classic screen, we have a lot of other things here too, like your column, one column, two columns, and then you have your panel grids to display any sort of like a data table kind of thing. You can use your panel grids. You have all those options right here on your toolbox. This is towards the right hand side. When you open your application studio, you can see, like, towards the right hand side you have this. Then each one of them, like if you select on your text box, or if you select on your combo box, each one of them has its own properties. Again, this is similar to your classic screen where you had the properties. It's just that the way it is shown would be a little different, and you have a couple of other more advanced features here for properties also. So depending on what you're selecting, either it could be a button. So then on the button, I would have something like behavior, and then I would select the on click. So then a new event gets created on my button on click. In this case, if I'm trying to tab out of my purchase order, so I would go ahead and select the behavior, and then I have something like on blur. So when I tab out of it, what should happen? You can just select on blur, and then a new data event is created. So that is what I was saying in my earlier slides, that it's like a low or no code kind of a thing, where you don't have to actually write in code like what happens when this button is clicked, but you can just like select them, and then you can drag and drop your widgets, which makes it easier. So you have something called as actions here on the right hand side, which is also like inside these actions you have like tons of widgets that Epicor has given us. Pretty much whatever we are trying to do, like let's say if you're trying to do message boxes, or we're trying to call a function, we're trying to call a REST ERP object, most of them are all in here in your actions. And then you also have these user defined actions are nothing but the ones that Epicor has already created for us. So like your after get by ID, what happens? After initialize, what happens? These are all the data events that are already in there that Epicor has given us. Now, the last tab would be your history, which tells you when you might have published something. So whenever I would have published, I'm supposed to give like a comment saying this is what I've done. So it has your drafts, and then it tells you your publish history. When you're trying to publish, like when you're trying to test something, you have different options here. Like you have the preview, you have your save, commit, and publish. So these are all, they kind of do different things. Your preview is when you're trying to test your layer, but it is really not saving anything. Like it's not available to use onto your on your menu yet. It's just you're trying to test things. That is when you use your preview. Then save is just like save, but it's not yet available to use on your menu yet. Then you also have your commit and publish, pretty much go hand in hand. If you're trying to publish, it would have done a commit for you, but commit is like your when you do your commit, you can see that you have like your timestamp and all that right here, but you don't, it's not yet available to use on your menu yet. Only when you go ahead and you do your publish, that is when it is available to you use on your menu item. Before doing a publish, if you do some kind of updates on your screen and you go ahead and you're trying to get that screen on your, you're trying to get that layer on your menu item, it would not be available because unless you publish, it's not going to be available.